What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Dusty, the Airstream trailer renovation restoration. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the installation of Airstream Subfloor. Now, if you're like Dusty and you need a full installation of Airstream Subfloor, this is exactly a video for you, and the step-by-step tutorial on how to install actual subfloor for an Airstream. Now, I've already gone ahead and done the pre-measurements on the overall width of Dusty, which is at 91 inches. So for the most subfloor sections we're going to be cutting at is exactly at 91 inches. Now, talking about the front and rear part of this trailer, obviously there is curvature around the corners, and the way we're going to make those measurements are we're actually going to go on the outside of this trailer and drill out every rivet that's holding that C channel to the front and the rear. And then we're going to pull that C channel off, place it on a piece of subfloor, measure it, and then go in and cut it, and then measure it again, make sure that it is appropriate cut prior to the installation of that. Once we get all the pieces cut, we're going to bring them inside Dusty, put them together like a piece of puzzle, make sure that everything fits appropriately, and if it does, then we will go from there to a two-part epoxy sealer. We'll seal each and every piece, and once that's sealed, we'll bring them back in and start the installation of the actual subfloor. Now, I did talk about in earlier episodes about the installation of belly pan, and I've decided to hold off to the end of it. And the reason for that is because once I get the subfloor on, the last thing I wanted to have is belly pan on and realize maybe there was a connection on something electrically, or maybe there was a bad part manufacturally that came that I'm going to have to go back under there and remove, and the last thing I want to do is have to remove new stuff that I installed. So I'm going to hold off on the belly pan, and that's probably going to be one of the last things I do with the insulation that goes into that. So without further ado, we're going to switch this over, like as always, get this work started, and start the cutting, measuring, and installation of this subfloor so that we can actually start the real fun stuff of Dusty. So what do you say? Let's get this thing started. You guys ready? Let's do it. Alright, so here's my subfloor. (1930 seconds) is the overall thickness. So 4 pieces. I'm going to cut to 91 inches overall, which is the overall width of this, which means we're only just cutting this short little piece off. Alright guys, we need to take this C channel off all the way for the rear and the front. And the way we're going to do that is by drilling these rivets out all the way around. Now, I don't have a place to place this camera, and all it really is just drilling them out and dropping that C channel. So I'm going to do that right now, and then I'll switch back over here real quick to show you guys how we're going to measure that and cut it. So let me get that switched over now. All right, guys, now we got most of the subfloor cut out. It's in place, just preliminary, making sure everything fits. So you can see from here, looks pretty good. I do have the freshwater tank board that's going to hold that into place. I do need to trim a little bit off here. I've already marked it, so I'm going to pull it out, trim that up. I do have the subfloor that goes on top of the freshwater tank already cut. I just didn't want to put it in place so you guys can kind of see what this looks like. So now let's pull this all out, and we're going to go ahead and start the epoxy sealant process. So I'll go ahead and get everything prepped, switched over, and we'll go ahead and start sealing this. All right, now that we got the two front pieces in at the front, they're cut. I do need to cut about a foot back on these once I get the section that covers the freshwater tank in. That's currently drying from the epoxy, so we're waiting on that. The subfloor that does hold the freshwater tank in has been epoxied. It is dry in place and everything is good there. And as we move to the back of these subfloor sections, everything is good here as well. I do need to trim back here in the front of these wheel wells on both sides so that I can make up this gap right here that's currently being missed between these two subsections. So once I do that, we will go ahead and pull this all out, cut it, epoxy it, put it back in place to make sure everything fits, put it back together, seal it to the frame, and then start to put the shell back onto this frame through the C channel. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this first video up of this two-part series. If you haven't already, go down, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, share with your family and friends. Until next time, as always, this is Danny signing out.